Hey everyone, you're turning into SBC Sports Business Classroom. We're here at the Thomas and Mack Center. We just watched the Clippers versus Sacramento. Clippers won 80, Sacramento down 10. They ended up with 70 points. Um, so Ben, can you tell me, is there anyone that stood out to you tonight?
Absolutely. I think both teams struggled early on, but there were definitely a couple guys who had some strong performances. On the Clippers side, I think Xavier Moon and Jordan Bowden were great. Xavier Moon out of Morehead State, an undersized guard. I thought he was really crafty and really controlled the game. For the Clippers, he got downhill when he needed to. He made plays in the paint, and he showed that he can score when he needs to as well. With 18 points on the night, being plus 11. And then Jordan Bowden was also great. He shot the ball really well. He shot it really efficiently, and he just looked comfortable overall. And I think that's a really good sign for him going forward and for the Clippers.
I agree. He definitely looked pretty consistent out there. James, can you tell me about some struggles that the Kings had tonight that led to their loss?
Yeah, definitely. In the first half, the Kings really struggled to shoot the ball. Kind of came back to bite them at the end of the game. Kind of playing from behind the whole time. They made a total of 7 field goals in the first half, which is shocking. It's really hard to win a game that way. So they were really playing from behind the whole time, and it was really hard for them to catch up at the end.
Right. How do you think the teams can improve for their next game?
Honestly, I think just continuing scoring, especially with the Clippers, Xavier Moon coming off a 26-point performance in the last game and then continuing that up with 18 points tonight. I think obviously he's their main go-to scorer. Like you mentioned, Ben, Jordan Bowden was really good tonight. They really like to play downhill, kick it out to their shooters, find the open man, swing the ball around the court. So really for the Clippers. For the Kings, they kind of haven't really been the same since the California Classic, especially missing Keegan Murray this game, which he shouldn't really be playing anyway because he was the MVP last year. So just trying to find that consistent scoring. They're kind of trying to figure out who that next man up is for their team right now, but definitely some answers for both teams to figure out.
Right. I think Kobe Jones was great for the Kings. He showed signs that he could be that scorer for them. He shot efficiently tonight. He had 19 points. And I think it was also really impressive to see him rebound and get involved and get in those loose balls. He finished with 9 rebounds on the night, which is great. So he impressed me for sure, and I think he'll be their guy carrying them through this summer league. But overall, I think they just needed to slow down a little bit. They turned the ball over early. And pretty much throughout the game. So I think if they slow down, look for better looks, set up their sets, they took some fast shots. But I think if they just stay poised and get more under control, they'll find the success that they had in the first game, and they should be all right going throughout the summer league.
Keon Ellis played really good tonight, 16 points in 29 minutes. He could be another consistent scorer for them. He showed flashes with a great three-point shot. Played really well tonight, 2 for 5 shooting the three. 5 for 13 from the field. Also was hoping to see more from Neemias Queta. G League MVP last season, really broke out. So was really hoping to see more from him. Hopefully he can pick it up moving forward.
Yeah, there's one player that I think stood out a little bit. Ryan, can you fill me in on some of your observations on Jordan Ford and how he can improve some things?
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately what I saw from Jordan Ford tonight was a lot of passing up front and a couple of missed threes in the first quarter. It appeared that he kind of lacked a little bit of confidence after those missed threes and started to move a little bit past aggression and more towards passiveness, not shooting a lot throughout the rest of the night. And even when he did, he was 1 for 7 from field goal and 0 of 3 from 3. So ultimately just not a good shooting night, but even as a pure point guard is kind of the role that he had to take up for the Kings tonight. I would have liked to see a little bit more aggressiveness. If the threes weren't falling, he could have drove to the basket more and just ultimately would hope to see more offensive production from the St. Mary's product.
All right. So as a team, how do you think they can improve into the regular season, leading into the regular season?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of the Clippers, and it's kind of this interesting situation. You drafted a couple guys, Jordan Middle and Kobe Brown, who appear to be carving out a role in the summer league roster at least. And I mean, the Clippers, in terms of a regular season perspective, kind of in a win now mode, right? And they have a lot of talent on that roster. A couple playoff heartbreaks in the last couple of years. It looks like those two guys can play a role in turning things towards turning the tide towards the championship, if they can crack a rotation at least. And it'll be interesting to see whether things can improve on that end. But Clippers are just a very talented team right now, so it might not be possible. In terms of Sacramento, very similar situation. In terms of the Kings making the playoffs for the first time in 15 years. I mean, there's just an excess of guards on that roster, it looks like right now. So we're hoping that some of the people that they drafted, some of the people that they signed in undrafted free agency after the draft, like Jordan Ford, for example, can contribute during or gain minutes who can continue building depth. But right now it looks hard to envision a reality where all these people are getting regular minutes in the regular season. So.
Right. Ben, I'd like to get your opinion. Do you think that the Kings held up their defense for this game? How do you think they did?
The game wasn't too high scoring. I think I can't really tell if it was great defense or bad offense to start the game. Neither team could hit shots, but I think the effort was there, which is pretty promising. Every guy looked like they were playing hard, at least, and seemed to be in pretty good position. I think they struggled more offensively. And so I think if they can carry the defense and improve their offense for the next games, they should be all right going forward.
Yeah, they definitely kicked off the summer league games pretty good. I mean, they had they had won their first game. Clippers lost their first game, so kind of switch around here. So can James, can you tell me how you think of what you thought of the game overall?
Yeah, I think the Clippers obviously played a lot better today than they did in their previous game. Obviously, coming off a loss against the Utah Jazz, they kind of rallied late. They were in a similar position as the Kings, where they started out behind early and then tried to rally late. Xavier Moon led the stretch. He had 21 of his 26 points in the fourth quarter of the last game. Today was kind of the opposite. They started out on the hot front. They were ahead most of the game. The Kings were kind of the team playing catch-up. So that's really good, boosting morale kind of for them moving forward. Kings, it's on the opposite side, right? They lost their first game, or they won their first game, lost this game. So obviously for them, they have a lot to figure out. Like I mentioned before, with that not really getting out to that hot start, kind of ended up to hurt them in the end. Obviously missing Keegan. They want to look for more suitable scorers moving forward. Also, I wanted to bring up a point with the Clippers. Brandon Boston's not playing for them. He was a big leader in their summer league team last year. So for them, they kind of figured out who their main scorers are going to be. I think it's time for the Kings to figure out who their main facilitators are going to be. And we mentioned before with Keon Ellis and Bowden, those guys getting going. So really looking forward to see what happens in the next game.
I agree, and I want to piggyback off of what you said about the Clippers. I think that obviously they're in a win now position, and so they're really maybe even just looking for some young guys who can be efficient like these players showed tonight, and help them throughout the regular season, because these younger players probably won't get these minutes in the playoffs, but throughout the season they could be a big help alongside young guys like Bones Highland and, like you said, Brandon Boston Jr. So I think that's a big point of emphasis for the Clippers this summer league, is just efficiency, because that's what they need. Players who can come in, maybe only play a few minutes, but in those few minutes help and impact the game.
Definitely.
I agree. Yeah, I think that to your point, at least, Clippers being in a win-now situation, it kind of finishing last season not quite good enough for to win a championship, but also not quite in the other realm enough to get a high lottery pick. They were stuck with guys like Kobe Brown and Jordan Miller who can contribute, and I think that will add depth going into the regular season, but to your point, are just not necessarily the pieces that would put them over the edge, but like can add a lot of depth, and I'm hoping that they can contribute in meaningful minutes during the regular season as well, just like they did tonight.
For sure.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add in that you noticed throughout the game? I know it's had like a slow start. Nothing too exciting. Anything else you guys want to add in?
I think what Summer League is all about is guys trying to prove themselves, right? We saw a nice dose of that today. Guys competing for a roster spot. Like you mentioned, the Clippers had some injuries last season, which kind of cut their season short. They weren't able to make it as far as they wanted. If guys get injured again, it's going to be up to these guys to step up who are fighting for a roster spot. Hoping they can compete in the postseason if need be. So it's fun to see. Hopefully these guys can step it up and have another great game next time around.
Yeah, as for me, I think I'm just looking forward, like James said, to the continued development of these young prospects. I think that summer league minutes are sometimes the best minutes for you to figure stuff like that out, just because it's not going to be possible during the regular season with people like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, De'Aaron Fox, and Domantas Sabonis on the roster with you. So I'm looking forward to see how they develop, and I'll pay attention to their careers moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Especially with such a stacked Western Conference. I mean, you got all these guys making big free agency acquisitions. You already got, like, the front runners, the Warriors. You got the Denver Nuggets, who just won. I mean, Phoenix Suns just made some big name plays. So it's really tough in the West, and both these teams are fighting for a spot in the playoffs in the Western Conference. So obviously health is going to be a big part of that moving forward. But if they do have quality depth and some of these summer league guys can step up and really fill that role when the starters go down, that way they can win some games, put themselves in better playoff positioning. So I think that's really important, and that's what I'm looking forward to watching out of summer league, is seeing these young guys kind of prove themselves and live up to their fullest potential, because in the end they're fighting for a roster spot. They want to make it. They want to impress the coaches, so they're putting out their maximum effort, doing as much as they can.
For sure, and I think moving throughout summer league, I think the games will get even more exciting. Obviously, the atmosphere in the gym today, there wasn't too many people, and so I think that both teams would thrive in an environment where there's more fans, more energy, and so I think the sluggish start was also a product of that tonight, and so I don't think that will be the case moving throughout summer league.
Right. So thank you to my analysts today. This is James, Ryan, and Ben. That's all the time we have today, you guys, and thanks for tuning in.